As a sign of good intent, the PLO have been moving off the streets of West Beirut in the past 24 hours as they get ready to go. In their place have come the Murabitoun, a Muslim left-wing militia that dates back to the Lebanese civil war of the 70s, heavily armed with Russian tanks and anti-aircraft guns. Their presence is a stark reminder that even when the PLO go, Lebanon could still be left with its own internal wars, because this small army is ready to face the Christians of the right, the Phalange, who are dug in with the Israelis on the other side of Beirut. It was significant that this morning, as the Israelis pulled back a few hundred yards in East Beirut, it wasn't the Lebanese army that moved into this, the museum crossing point, but the Murabitoun. With precise plans from the PLO, they started clearing dozens of land and anti-personnel mines laid by the Palestinians to meet an Israeli push across this line. An extensive network of booby-trap devices put down just a few weeks ago. And when they'd finished that, they brought in bulldozers to remove the sandbags from the bunkers and dugouts of the PLO. The clearest sign yet that this war is all but over, that the Palestinians are going, and soon. But a sign too that they'll be replaced on the front line by another fighting force, with an enemy just a few hundred yards away across a city that even with the PLO out, could still be as divided as ever. David Smith, News at 10, in West Beirut. The French had arrived at first light, 350 paratroopers, many from the Foreign Legion, here to stand between the Israelis and the PLO until this evacuation is over. They found the Israelis waiting for them on the quayside, where they'd been told the Lebanese army would be. An inauspicious start for the multinational force as they unloaded men, trucks, supplies and weapons. The French commanders presented their plan to the Israelis. Apparently the Lebanese had been rather nervous about the idea of moving the Israelis out themselves. Eventually the Lebanese turned up to get a ticking off from the French, who wanted the Israelis out right away. So the Israelis, who took this port area a few weeks ago after some of the heaviest fighting in this war, finally pulled back to allow the French to take over. By mid-morning the paratroopers were moving into position to seal off the port for the evacuation, taking up the very bunkers the Israelis had held. In the centre of West Beirut, the first evacuees had been gathering in a football stadium from early morning. The PLO had been under pressure to show good intent by sending some of their fighters today, and not just the wounded, as originally planned. They obliged by having a battalion of about 400 move out, all of them in full battle dress, carrying personal weapons, including rocket-propelled grenades, which the Israelis say the agreement does not allow them to take. Goodbyes between those leaving and those staying here until next week, when the bulk of the Palestinians will go. There were wives, daughters, sisters and brothers as well, all of them standing by. They will not be joining their men for several months, if at all. For some, home will still be Beirut. From here they moved off for the 3-mile journey down to the port, most of them bound first for Cyprus, then on to Jordan and Iraq. The beginning of an evacuation that will leave about 7,000 men scattered over half a dozen Arab countries, but with the hardcore likely to end up in Syria, still on Israel's front line. Which is why perhaps this departure became something of a celebration, with the PLO going out, guns blazing. Kept it up every step of the way down to the harbour. There the French force stood by, nervous but getting a Palestinian welcome. At last this evacuation was underway.
If this was a sad day for Yasser Arafat, he wasn't going to let it show. Before leaving, he went to say his farewells to his most valued friends, and the people of West Beirut came to say goodbye to him. The first call was on Walid Jumblat, the leader of the left-wing Muslims in Beirut who've supported him since he brought the PLO headquarters to the city in 1970. Mr. Arafat declared that the siege of Beirut had brought about a new dawn on the Arab scene and in united resistance against the Israelis. There was another enthusiastic reception at the office of the Lebanese Prime Minister, Shafiq al-Wazan, who played a key part in the ceasefire and evacuation negotiations. At the port, the PLO had prepared a guard of honor and short ceremony to see their chairman off. Some more of their colleagues were going too, but when Mr. Arafat's motorcade arrived, all thought of ceremony was forgotten as his supporters surged forward. The man who'd helped found the PLO in 1964 and been its chairman ever since had not lost any of his popularity. Indeed, his friends say the Battle of Beirut had greatly increased his standing. His reputation and authority is certainly intact around the Arab world, but Lebanese troops were needed to stop his own men mobbing him all the way to the ship. He boarded the Greek vessel Atlantis bound for Athens, where he's expected to stay for a few days only. Then he will go on to Tunisia, where many of his fighters are already, and where he'll establish his new political headquarters. Jeremy Hands, ITN, West Beirut.